Even before Martin Van Buren took the oath of office in 1837 as the 8th President of the United States, the nation was already on the brink of economic disaster. And a lot of this can be traced back to his predecessor, Andrew Jackson's economic policies. Jackson's fierce battles with the National Bank of the United States led to a series of economic upheavals, rampant unemployment, and widespread business failures. Van Buren inherited what would soon be known as the Panic of 1837, and his handling of this crisis, unfortunately for him, left much to be desired. He believed in laissez-faire approaches to the economy, meaning hands off the economy will correct itself over time without federal government intervention. This decision, combined with his image as a wealthy, well-dressed leader, seemingly detached him from the struggles of ordinary Americans, making him even more unpopular. The American people felt like he didn't understand the plight of their economic hardships. In today's episode, we are going to look at the rematch of the incumbent Democratic nominee Martin Van Buren and his Whig challenger, William Henry Harrison. And boy, is this an entertaining election. Let's get started. With Van Buren's popularity waning, the Whig Party saw a golden opportunity to make significant gains in the upcoming election. They understood that choosing a candidate that starkly contrasted the aristocratic Van Buren was a winning strategy. The Whigs will hold their convention in late 1839, which was significantly earlier than normal, which kind of shows you their eagerness to seize the moment. Initially, their frontrunners are Daniel Webster and Henry Clay, both well-known, but both lack broad popular appeal. Enter William Henry Harrison, a Southern-born war hero whose military exploits made him a national hero. Sound familiar? What's interesting is that William Henry Harrison and eventually his running mate John Tyler both hail from the state of Virginia, which is the heartland of Van Buren's Democratic Party. Now, initially at the Whig convention, Henry Clay is the frontrunner, but by the first ballot, the Whig delegates make it clear that they believe William Henry Harrison is the best candidate that gives them the best shot to beat the incumbent Martin Van Buren. Harrison often referred to himself as a child of the Revolution, and for good reason. He was born on February 9, 1773, just 2 years before the Battle of Lexington and Concord, and so his early years were steeped in the revolutionary spirit. Born into one of Virginia's elite families and closely connected to the Washingtons, his father, Benjamin Harrison, was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and was a 3-term governor of the state of Virginia. Growing up, William would have heard stories of the Revolution and struggles for independence, especially when you consider that their plantation was just 30 miles from Yorktown, where General Washington secured the final victory against the British. And so this childhood, his roots in the revolutionary spirit, molded him into a man who felt this sense of duty for country. As the youngest of 7 children, Harrison faced limited prospects due to an era in which its laws favored the eldest son in inheritance matters. Despite his solid education and even getting to study medicine under the esteemed Dr. Benjamin Rush in Philadelphia, Harrison's true passions lay elsewhere. In 1791, after his father's death and his just lack of enthusiasm for medicine, Harrison decides that he's going to join the military, and he's going to use his father's connections to secure an officer's commission, and they will quickly be able to see his leadership qualities within the military, eventually earning recognition for his valor in such battles as the Battle of Fallen Timbers. This early military success set the stage for Harrison's rapid rise, eventually leading to him becoming the governor of Indiana Territory, as well as his pivotal role in events such as the Battle of Tippecanoe and the Battle of Tams. Harrison's political journey was a prolonged struggle marked by numerous setbacks and personal tragedies. After serving in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1816 to 1819, Harrison is going to face financial difficulties. Living well beyond his means, he falls into debt. And despite trying to secure higher offices, he's going to lose out on bids for offices like the Secretary of War and a diplomatic post to Russia. He'll even try to gain various roles in the state of Ohio and will lose out on a gubernatorial bid and various U.S. Senate races. Tragedy compounded his political frustrations, with 6 of his 10 children dying between 1817 and 1840. In 1824, he will finally secure a U.S. Senate seat, only to use that position to secure more prestigious roles, and eventually will become the ambassador to Colombia through the influence of his good friend Henry Clay. But his time in Colombia was marred by political blunders, eventually leading to his recall by President Andrew Jackson. Harrison will return to Ohio, still in financial trouble, and will have to take what he considered to be a lowly job as a county recorder just to support his family. But despite these challenges, his resilience and determination will help eventually lead him to the presidency. President Van Buren and the Democratic Party will make several missteps during the Reelection Campaign of 1840. Their assumption is that the Whig Party is only united in their disdain for Jacksonian democracy, and this assumption is going to prove disastrous. The Whigs have learned from their failed strategy in 1836, running multiple candidates, and they are going to really organize like the Democrats have done for a long time. And this organization is going to help them in their attacks on Van Buren, portraying him as detached, aristocratic, and out of touch with the common man. In a fateful blunder, a Democratic-backed newspaper is going to mock Harrison, calling him a rustic simpleton, claiming that he would be content to sit in a log cabin with a barrel of hard cider and a pension. Instead of the Whig Party getting defensive about this, they're going to seize this characterization, creating one of the most memorable and effective political strategies in American history. The Whigs are going to rebrand Harrison as the log cabin and hard cider candidate, a down-to-earth war hero who resonates with the common man. Despite his true background as a member of a wealthy Virginia family, the Whigs are going to create this image of Harrison as a humble and relatable leader. This was the first major instance of political image making in a presidential campaign. The Whigs will craft campaign songs portraying Harrison as this humble, down-to-earth war hero and Van Buren as this aristocratic, out-of-touch president. They will also resort to name-calling, calling the Democratic incumbent Martin Van Ruin and a first-rate, second-rate man. We will also see the Whigs craft the campaign slogan that will become historically famous, Tippecanoe and Tyler too. You'll see this on banners all throughout the country. You'll even see these miniature log cabins that are attached to wagons, and on the top of the roof, they'll have the banner that says, "Vote for Tippecanoe and Tyler too." While Van Buren focused on an issue-driven campaign, which is not the best strategy in an economic depression, the Whigs went straight for emotional appeal. They stole and took the strategy from Andrew Jackson's 1832 campaign, transforming politics into a form of mass entertainment. The Whigs held rallies, bonfires, and barbecues, and even rolled a giant paper and tin ball emblazoned with pro-Harrison slogans across hundreds of miles. They distributed whiskey in log cabin-shaped bottles and flooded the country with promotional items featuring Harrison. Van Buren's vice president, Richard M. Johnson, was not spared either by the Whig Party. Despite being a war hero for allegedly killing Tecumseh, Johnson's relationship with African-American women became a focal point for Whig attacks. It gets so bad that the Democratic Party ends up making the decision to drop Johnson from the ticket. Now, Van Buren, who is trying to maintain his dignity, is going to stay primarily in the White House during the campaign. This is a stark contrast to the active campaigning that Harrison is doing in 1840. Harrison's campaign rallies were a spectacle. In fact, there was a rally at the Tippecanoe battle site which drew 60,000 people. Right? That is a bunch of people coming to listen to William Henry Harrison in 1840. Now, political cartoonists of the day are going to do a tremendous job in helping the Whigs because they're going to capture the public's sentiment towards Van Buren. They're going to really go after his failures and this image of him being this aristocrat. And They're also in these cartoons going to contrast the two candidates' personas. When the votes were counted, Harrison is going to win in a landslide, securing 234 electoral votes, which is nearly 4 times as many votes as Van Buren got in the Electoral College. Harrison will carry 19 states, where Van Buren will only carry 7. Harrison becomes the first Whig candidate to take the oath of office as president. At age 68, Harrison becomes the oldest president at the time. In fact, he's in poor health before he even heads to Washington, and ominously stated to his supporters that this may be the last time that he sees them. His wife is also in poor health, and she has decided to stay back until there's warmer weather in the capital city. On the day of the inauguration, the Whigs, within arm's reach of federal power for the first time, are going to descend upon the Capitol in large numbers. And greedy office seekers are going to encircle Harrison, and they're going to whisper among themselves that the 68-year-old looks kind of frail. And Harrison is going to go out and deliver the longest inaugural address in American history, lasting nearly 2 hours. In his address, he outlined a vision of limited presidential power and criticized the trend of executive overreach. He promised not to seek a second term and emphasized the role of Congress as the primary policymaker. His address also touched on the contentious issue of slavery, defending states' rights, and warning against federal interference. Tragically, Harrison's presidency is going to be cut short. He's going to deliver his inaugural address on a cold, snowy day in Washington, D.C. without a top hat or overcoat. And he's going to get pneumonia. And despite the doctor's efforts, and some of these were very primitive at the time, I mean, they used heated suction cups. They even used live snakes. None of these helped. In fact, most of them made his condition worse. And exactly 1 month after taking office, President William Henry Harrison dies, making his administration the shortest presidency in American history. After the inaugural celebrations, Vice President John Tyler is going to quietly slip away to Virginia. Despite being the vice president, William Henry Harrison never really sought nor received Tyler's counsel. Exactly 1 month and a day after the inauguration, on the early morning of April 5th, 1841, there is a frantic pounding at John Tyler's door. It's the son of Secretary of State Daniel Webster, who has been on an all-night journey to deliver the news to Vice President Tyler that President Harrison is dead. Tyler frantically hurries back to Washington, D.C., where he finds the capital city in chaos. Whig Party leaders are squabbling over offices and appointments, and no one is quite sure who the president is, because no president has died in office yet to this point. Is John Tyler now the president, or is he merely acting president? The problem is the Constitution doesn't give us a clear answer at this point. What we're going to see John Tyler do is act boldly, and he is going to take the oath of office, closing the door on any doubt as to who the president is. And what he does is he sets a precedent for future successions. And just like that, the 51-year-old from Virginia becomes the youngest president at the time to assume the presidency. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.